In today's video, I'm going to be ranking every single Rainbow Six Siege Elite skin based on the skin itself, the animation, and the cosmetics you get along with it, so the weapon skins and stuff like that. If you guys go on to enjoy this video and you want to see more videos like this, then please feel free to leave a like, subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump straight into it with the very first Elite skin, and that is going to be the Fuse Elite skin. So starting off with Fuse and the skin itself, I do like the headgear. I think the uniform is a little bit bland and the weapon skin and stuff could be a little bit better. The animation is definitely one of the better animations on this list. It has an entire filter going over it, there's some music playing, and just the animation itself is also pretty cool. I think all of this stuff combined definitely makes out for it to be one of the better Elite skins in the game. When plugging it into the tier list, I think I'm going to have to go around the A tier though. I don't want to put too many skins in the S tier. With that being said, then the next Elite skin we're going to be having a look at is going to be the Blitz Elite. Now the uniform and headgear and stuff, the whole aesthetic of this Elite skin, I do think could have been done a little bit better, but for what we do have, it isn't the worst. You know, I do like the Blitz shield skin. I think that is one of the best parts about this cosmetic. I feel like if I actually ended up buying this skin, I probably wouldn't even run the headgear or uniform. I'd probably just use the animation and the shield. However, when plugging it into the tier list and comparing it to some of the other Elite skins that are coming up in this video, I think I've got to put it the low end of B tier or high end of C tier, and for this purpose, I think I'm going to put it high end of C tier. Now with that being said, the next Elite we're looking at is going to be the IQ Elite skin, and this is a fan favorite. A lot of people like the way the skin itself looks in this one, myself included. I do like some of the Elite skins that show off the face of operators a little bit more and gives them a different hairstyle, and this is definitely one of them. We also have kind of like a tracksuit vibe going on, and the animation is also pretty decent. So overall, I think this is going to go in a B tier Elite skin. I like majority of it. Maybe we'll jig it up to an A tier later on in the video, but for now I think a B tier is pretty accurate. Now with that being said, the next Elite skin we have is the Buck Elite skin, and Buck as an operator is just an operator that I love quite a lot. It's probably one of the operators that I am more likely to buy the Elite for. I think the skin itself is actually pretty good. Once again, the animation is what really stands out for this one though. As you can see, you got like the frosty filter, and then he uses the Buck shotgun gadget to blast a massive hole in the camera glass itself. I think overall this has to be a minimum of an A tier Elite skin. It's one of the better ones in the game in my opinion. It maybe could be a little bit more vibrant and stuff like that, but I think they did go all out for this Elite. The next Elite skin we're having a look at is going to be the Blackbeard Elite skin, and there is one aspect of this skin that I really don't like, and it's not the headgear. I think that's fine. It's not the uniform. I think that's arguably the best part about this skin, but it is the animation. The animation is so slow. There's not really too much movement going on. To be honest, it could be Blackbeard's default MVP pose, and I don't think anyone would actually notice. There's not a whole lot going on here, and for that reason, I don't think I can put it any higher than maybe a low end of B tier or a high end of C tier. But because of how good the skin itself actually is, I will put it in B tier. Moving on then to the next operator, and it's going to be Capital. Once again, breaking the skin down. I think the headgear is actually quite cool. I like the little afro stuff that is going on. The uniform is also decent. I wish he was wearing a different top. I think it's quite plain, the one that he's got on going on here, but it is a very casual look. You know, the weapon skin is also pretty mid, but the animation is pretty cool, especially if you're someone who likes football. He does actually juggle the football pretty well in this, and overall I think it all comes down to around a B tier Elite skin once again. Now next up then, we have one of my all-time favorite Elite skins. It is the Hibana Elite skin. Now for example, the whole aesthetic of this Elite skin is perfect. I think everything works very well. I think it suits Hibana as an operator very well as well. The headgear itself is pretty decent. The uniform is amazing, and the animation is also amazing. So overall, I think this is going to be the first S tier Elite skin in this video. Now with that being said, the next operator is actually going to be Jackal. Now I actually don't like the way the headgear looks on this one. It doesn't feel like Jackal to me at all. I don't like the headgear or the hairstyle that's going on. The uniform isn't that bad. It just looks like a default casual cop uniform, which is fine, and the animation at least ties into his gadget. So if I was to buy this Elite skin, I'd probably switch out the headgear, and overall it's probably another B tier Elite elite skin. The next one then is going to be the Ying elite skin. Now this one actually didn't come out too long ago, so I haven't really had too much time to dwell upon it, but it is something that you'd see out of like a sci-fi film or something like that. I do like the headgear, I do like the uniform, and the animation is also pretty decent, but I don't think it's a skin that I would personally buy. But because it does check all the boxes, I think once again it has to go in a low end of B tier. The next one we're going to be having a look at is going to be the two Zofia elite skins, starting off with her normal one, the one that ties into her backstory and lore and stuff like that. It is a pretty decent elite skin. She's got like this uniform going on, like this Polish military uniform. I think the animation for this one is also pretty decent. If you're someone who likes like historically accurate and realistic elite skins, this is probably up there for you, but I think when we're plugging it in to the tier list, I'm gonna have to put it at the high end of C tier. Now the second elite skin that Zofia gets is actually a Resident Evil crossover one, and if you guys like the Resident Evil games, you'll probably rate this one a little bit higher than I do, but I do actually like the skin itself. I think the cosmetics are pretty cool. I don't know if it's worthy of the price tag, but once again, if you like the games, you'll probably like the skin a little bit more than me. The animation is arguably the best part about this, where you can hear the zombies going on from the Resident Evil games, and she's kind of healing herself up with the healing spray that features in the games as well. So overall, I think I'm going to have to go a little bit higher for this one. I'm tempted to put it in the middle to high end of B tier. Now next up then, we have another one of the all-time great elite skins. This one's been in the game for a long time now, and it is Sledge's default elite skin. This is the one that once again ties into the lore and backstory of Sledge. Now the headgear for this one is great. I think the uniform's also pretty great. The best part about this, in my opinion, is the skin you get for the sledgehammer, the gadget skin itself. It's actually pretty cool that you can get a different kind of style for the sledgehammer itself, and if you're someone who plays Sledge a lot, it's something that you'll actually notice in game a lot. So overall, I think this is another A tier minimum elite skin. The next one we're looking at is going to be for Dokkaebi, and I actually have a big gripe with this skin. Now the skin itself is fine, you know, the headgear is pretty good, the uniform is pretty good, I think the cosmetics for the weapon skins and stuff like that are also good. The one thing I have that I don't like about this skin is the animation, and it's because the music that plays when she does her little dance is so obnoxious. When an enemy gets this as the MVP pose, it's like the cherry on top for just annoying you, and maybe that's a reason you would want to buy the skin, but I do think the skin overall is pretty good. I just hate getting it come up against me. So overall, I think I'm going to have to put it a high end of B tier, maybe even a low end of A, but I'm going to keep it in low end of B tier for now. The next skin we're going to be having a look at then is going to be Lion's Resident Evil elite skin. This is Leon Kennedy from the Resident Evil games. Once again, I do like the skin itself, even though Lion does actually have a lot of skins that are like from the battle passes and stuff. I do think the elite skin is also pretty worth buying, especially if once again you're a fan of the Resident Evil games. The animation is probably arguably the best part about this. Once again, I think I'm going to put it right next to the other Resident Evil elite skin in B tier. The next one we're looking at is Finka, and Finka actually has a pretty interesting backstory behind hers. This is actually an exosuit developed by Nighthaven. It has a little pop of color in there as well, which not a lot of skins in Siege do have, especially not elite skins. So if you're someone who likes bright, vibrant, you know, very obvious elite skins, and you're someone who likes playing Finka, this is going to be a great option for you. I do like the animation for this one as well, where she uses like her exo stem thing to actually give her the strength to lift up this massive piece of debris. If I had to put it on the tier list, I'd probably once again go around the B tier. I have a feeling the B tier is going to be filled up by the end of this video, so maybe I've got to start being a little bit more harsh for the rest of the video. With that being said, the next one we have is the Maverick elite skin, and I do like the aesthetic of this one. It's kind of like a little welder. This could, in my opinion, be something like a battle pass skin. Like, it is something that looks like it could be from a battle pass set and not like an elite set, but overall I do like the aesthetic. I think the animation could be a little bit better. He's just like welding this massive pipe and he's riding it down. Not really the greatest in my opinion. I think I'm going to put it in C tier. And the next operator we're doing as well is the Nomad elite skin, where she's like this adventurer, explorer kind of aesthetic. Once again, not really a big fan of the skin itself. I think the animation's pretty decent, but overall I don't think it's once again worth getting out of C tier for, so I think I'm going to put it in C tier as well. And the next one we're having a look at is another one of the brand new elite skins, and this one is going to be for Nook. Now I'm going to be completely honest, I was not expecting the Nook elite skin to look anything like this, and I am a massive fan. The aesthetic itself, anything that is just black on black is going to look great in Siege. It actually changes like the shape of the head of Nook. The animation is another one of those that I think they really nailed. It's like got a lot of movement, got a lot of detail going on in there, and I think this is the second elite skin that is going to be going in S tier. The only sad part about this is that Ubisoft have actually nerfed Nook into the ground at the moment, and I don't really think there's too much reason to actually be playing her as an operator. But with that being said, moving on over to the next character we are going to be having a look at is going to be Callie. Now I actually have one big problem with this, and it's the fact that if this was Callie's default look, I don't think anyone would say otherwise. This could easily be a low tier battle pass skin, and I think it would work fine. I think they could have done so much more for the elite skin here, and I think this is actually just quite lazy in my opinion. The animation itself is also not very great. There's not really too much going on. I'm going to put this in D tier. This is one of the operator elites that I actually don't enjoy. Next up then, we're going to have a look at the Iana 2B elite skin crossover, and this is another fan favorite for obvious reasons that I'm not going to state in this video, but I do actually think the aesthetic of the skin is quite cool. We don't actually have any other skins in the game that look anything like this, and it's because it is a crossover skin. I am actually going to put this quite high. I'm going to put it in A tier once again, just because it's not really like any other skin we've seen in Siege, and overall I just love it as a skin. The next one we're looking at then is going to be for Ace. I think this is another one that falls into like the mid-ground category. I do like the pop of color once again for the skin itself. I think the animation is actually trying to be a little bit funny, but I actually don't like it that much, so I'm just going to put it in B tier and we're going to move on. The next one we're looking at is going to be the other Sledge elite skin. This is the Master Chief Halo crossover one, and it's another one of those skins that I think is going to be very hit or miss depending on if you're a fan of the Halo franchise. Now, even though I have never played the Halo games, I do like the skin itself. I think Halo like armor and stuff does look pretty cool. I don't think it fits in with Siege at all, but I do think it's a pretty cool elite skin that you can buy if you're a fan of the games. One of the details that I do really like about this skin is the fact that they changed the hammer to the hammer from the Halo game, so it actually works and is integrated very, very well. If we're purely just ranking this based off how good the skin is itself, I'm going to have to put it quite high. I'm going to put it in A tier. And with that being said, the next one we're looking at is the Zero elite. This is Sam Fisher. This is what he looks like essentially in every Splinter Cell game, and it is a classic look. We all knew this is what the elite skin for Zero was going to be, and the animation is also arguably one of the best animations that you can get with any elite skin in the game. I actually really like the aesthetic of the skin. I think the skin could be maybe a little bit more out there, a little bit more interesting, but the animation definitely makes up for it. It's another skin that I'm going to be putting in A tier. I really like this one. The next one we're going to be looking at then is the Assassin's Creed crossover elite for Flores. It's an interesting operator to pick to get the Assassin's Creed elite skin. I mean, it doesn't really fit Flores as an operator, but if you like Assassin's Creed, you're going to like this skin and the aesthetic. Once again, I don't think it fits in with Siege, kind of similar to like the Halo armor and stuff like that, but with that being said, the skin itself is pretty cool, and I'm just going to have to put it a high end of B tier. The next one we're looking at then is going to be for Smoke, and I actually really like this Smoke elite skin. The one small detail that I really don't like is the way that the mask connects to the top of his head, aka like his hairline. If you look at it up close, it's something that I really don't like the way it looks, but ignoring that and looking just purely at the skin and its animation, I do think the headgear is decent. I like the pop of color in the uniform. The animation is arguably one of the best in the game. I'm going to put it in S tier, because even though I don't like that little small detail, you can always swap out the headgear for something a little bit more interesting, and different headgears do work with this uniform as well. So overall, I'm just going to put it in S tier and move on. And the next one we're going to be looking at is going to be for Mute. Now Mute is interesting because I think the headgear headgear and uniform is very realistic. So once again, if you're someone who likes realistic elite skins, you'll like this one, but I don't think it's that great in my opinion. The one thing I do really like though is the animation, because even though it's not over the top and it doesn't have a lot of movement or a lot going on in it, it's very subtle. But if you play the game and you know how mute jammers work, you will know that it's related to his gadget, and as you get closer to him in the MVP screen, the mute effect goes on, and I think that is a really cool MVP animation. So I'm gonna go up in A tier for the animation alone. Now the next one we're looking at is going to be for Castle. This one is also pretty cool. I like the animation for this one where he just whips out and kicks over a table and starts shooting a bunch of shotguns and stuff. Very badass. I think it fits Castle pretty well. The aesthetic and skin itself, I think the headgear is pretty cool where he doesn't really have a helmet or anything like that, so you can mix and match that headgear with other uniforms. I think the uniform itself is also pretty cool if you want to equip a different headgear, so I think it works well as a bundle itself. And once again, I'm going to go in A tier. And the next skin we're having a look at is going to be the Pulse Elite skin. This is actually a reference to the character in the film Taxi Driver. So technically this is also a crossover elite skin. The one thing I don't like about this is the animation and the headgear, like the weird mohawk he's got going on, and then in the animation he actually combs it back, which is very weird to look at. Maybe it's a reference to the film. I haven't actually seen the film, but I think overall I'm just going to put it in like the top end of C tier. I think this is one that's going to be very hit or miss, so let me know where you would put this skin and all the others that I've got wrong so far in the comments. The next one we're looking at then is going to be the Doc Elite. This one is very cool. I do like this one. The popper color in the uniform itself is great. I think the headgear is really unique for Doc. He also gets a bit of facial hair as well. I think the weapon skins you get with this is also good, and the animation is also great. I think this one's very similar to Fuse. Both got like those filters going on top of the animation. They both got a lot of stuff going on in the animation and have music, so they definitely went all out for the animations of both of those elite skins, and they both deserve to be high on the list. The next one we're looking at then is going to be Rook, and I actually realized the other day that they actually changed the operator portrait card for this. This is what the original one used to look like, and it didn't really look anything like Rook. They changed it to the one that we know and love today, and I think this is definitely an improvement. But when we're looking at the skin itself, the headgear is good, the uniform's good. I think it relates to Rook himself great, and the animation is also a great reference to his armor, and if you're someone who plays Rook a lot, it makes a lot of sense. So overall, I don't think you can knock Ubisoft for this one. I think it belongs up in A tier. The next one then we're looking at is going to be for Capcan. I've seen a lot of people in the community say that this one's pretty mid. I do kind of see what you're saying, where the uniform and headgear do look like they could be something out of a battle pass or just like a default bundle, but I personally do like it quite a lot. I like the aesthetic, the Soviet Union references and stuff throughout it. I also really like the animation where he's just like playing with his knife, doing some basic training, showing off his knife skills. I think that's also pretty awesome, so I'm going to put it up in A tier, and to be honest, this one's close to creeping up into S tier for me, but maybe it's because Capcan is like my most played defender. With that being said, the next one we're going to be looking at is another Soviet, and that is going to be Tachanka, and his one is absolutely badass. Instead of showing you too much of the skin and the animation, I'm going to show you the little trailer that they actually brought out for this elite skin, because I think this shows it off perfectly. I think anyone who knows Lord Tachanka meme references from OG Siege will love this skin. I also actually personally love the detail in the tattoos and stuff for this skin. I think the headgear and the uniform are really unique. We don't have any other skins in the game that look anything like this. So again, this is going to be another elite skin in my opinion that goes all the way up in S tier. The next one we're looking at is going to be for Thatcher, and this one's kind of weird because it reminds me a lot of Captain Price from the COD games, like the OG Modern Warfare games, and a lot of people do say that. I do think the uniform and headgear are decent. I don't like the way the facial hair looks on the headgear, so it is a headgear that I might swap out if I was to buy this elite skin, but the uniform is quite decent. I do like the way it looks. The animation is also pretty cool where he comes down from a helicopter and like like repels in for the MVP animation. So overall, I think I'm going to put this at like a high end of B tier, maybe even deserves a low end of A tier. Moving on to the next elite skin then, and it is going to be for Jaeger, and this is one of the few elites that we actually have in the game that actually continues to completely hide the operator's face, and I think it fits Jaeger and his aesthetic perfectly. I think the whole point of this is to be like a World War II themed pilot, and I think it suits him pretty well. The headgear looks great, the uniform looks great, one of those that's historically accurate, and the animation isn't that bad either. So once again, I think this elite skin deserves A tier, maybe even creeps up into S tier for some of those Jaeger mains. With that being said though, the next operator is going to be another German. It's going to be for Bandit, and this is another one that has a lot of detail in the tattoos, kind of similar to the Chachanka one. I do like the headgear, I do like the uniform for this one as well. I don't actually know what the weapon skins and stuff look like for this one. I need to have a look at that. When it comes down to the animation for this elite skin, I know that it's not really that interesting. He just kind of sits on a motorbike and revs it, which is very relatable to the backstory of this elite skin. But when we take into consideration the rest of the elite skins on this list, I definitely think it belongs up in A tier alongside some of the others. The next elite skin we're going to be looking at then is going to be for Frost, and this is an elite skin that when I first started and first saw for the first time, I actually liked it quite a lot, but the more I've looked at it and the more I've compared it to some of the other elites in the game, I think the animation is very, very boring, which just ties back her hair and is just stood across from a fire. I do like the uniform quite a lot. I think the headgear could maybe be a little bit better, but overall I do like the aesthetic of the whole elite skin, but I don't think it deserves to get out of C tier. The next elite is going to be for Valkyrie then, and this one is supposed to be like a World War I, World War II themed war photographer. I love the way this one works. I think it works very well for Valkyrie as well, being like an intel based operator. I really like the headgear for this one. I think this would work very well with other uniforms as well, so if you have other Valk uniforms that you like, and the headgear would work well with it. I think the uniform itself could maybe be a little bit better, but as I said, it's another one of those that's trying to be realistic and, you know, does actually do that pretty well. Overall, I definitely think it deserves high end of B tier, maybe low end of A tier. In this specific situation, I'm going to put it low end of A tier. And very similar to the Valkyrie one, the next one we have is going to be for Cav. I love the aesthetic of this one. One of the few elite skins in the game that has a lot of red in it as well. So if you're someone who likes reds or just red in general as a color, this one might be for you. I love the pistol and the suppressor skin that you get on that pistol as well. Overall, I think the aesthetic of the hair, the headgear itself, and the uniform works very well. The animation is great for Kavira as well, so I'm going to put it up in A tier. The next two elite skins then are going to be for Echo. The first one is going to be the Yakuza crossover elite skin. I've never played the Yakuza games, but I do know that the character from those games, it looks exactly like him, so they did a great job trying to get his likeness through. I do like the aesthetic of the elite skin itself. Once again, another one of those skins that we don't have anything like it in the game. I think if I had to rate this skin out of 10, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10, up to like maybe like an 8, 8.5 kind of area. Overall, I think it definitely deserves A tier. And then when we look at his other elite skin that's kind of ninja themed and stuff like that, I think arguably S tier. The uniform and the headgear for this one is great. The animation is perfect, and the way that the Echo drones are incorporated in it as well, I love it. One of those few elite skins that I think even if you didn't play Echo all that much and you loved it that much, you could go ahead and buy it anyway. So with that being said, we're just going to like quick fire through some of these ones here. We're not going to have a look at their animations. The first one is going to be for Mira. Her headgear and uniform is fine. I think it captures what they were trying to do pretty well. I will show the animation up on screen quickly here for this one, where she just stood in front of a cannon. I really do think that they should do another Mira elite skin, because this one doesn't represent her or her gadget at all, and I don't like the way this one works for her, so I'm just going to put it in B tier. The next one is for Legion, kind of similar to the Thinker one. This dude's exosuit was created by Nighthaven and it looks pretty cool. I don't really like the animation for it though, where it's got like this weird filter over the top. I think in certain situations the filters are good, like in the cases of Doc and Fuse, but this time around it didn't really work that well. And overall, I do think that if you did buy this elite, you'd probably swap out like the headgear and stuff like that. So I'm going to put it maybe in B tier as well. The next skin we're going to have a look at is going to be for Ella. This is a fan favorite once again. I think the headgear is what really pulls people in to this skin itself. Now I think in Ella's like bio, she was like once a painter or something like that, and I think that is why her elite skin animation is her like painting her own portrait in the MVP screen. I think it's pretty cool overall. I would like to see something more integrated with her like actual gadget though, but with that being said, once again, I think this is another B tier elite skin in my opinion. Next up we have the Ash one. This was the one that they actually gave out for the Outbreak event for completing challenges. So this isn't even one that you can buy with R6 credits, I don't believe, but overall this has to be one of the worst skins in the game. As an elite skin, the headgear is so boring, the uniform is very mid, the animation is arguably the worst in the game, where she's just standing there on her phone and she tells the people from the MVP to just shush. Like, it's pretty weird. But with that being said, the next one we're looking at is going to be for Vigil, and Vigil has an interesting one. It kind of reminds me a lot of like the Watch Dogs universe. It kind of reminds me of something from there, especially where he kind of glitches around in the MVP animation. I do like the skin itself though. The headgear and uniform is great, the animation's pretty good. So once again, high end of B tier, low end of A tier maybe for this skin. But once again, if you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. The next elite skin we're going to be having a look at then is going to be the Alibi one, and I must not have been playing when they released this, because I swear this one has been in the game for so long and I've never seen it. Like, I genuinely don't know when they released this one. I don't see anyone ever run this elite skin. In my opinion, the headgear looks pretty weird. I do like the uniform and I do think the animation is okay, but with that being said, it is a decent skin overall. Once again, going in B tier. The one for Kaid, once again, kind of similar. It's kind of like a younger version of Kaid, but I would probably put it in B tier. The headgear I don't really like that much because it doesn't look like Kaid at all in my opinion. The uniform is fine, you know, it relates to him and his background, which makes a lot of sense, but when it comes down to a cosmetic and ranking it against some of the other ones in this list, I just personally would not buy it. The next one then is going to be for Mozzie. Now Mozzie, I really don't like the headgear on it. It doesn't look like Mozzie at all and it looks very weird, but the uniform I really like. I like the axe, like the fire axe that he's got on his back, and overall the fireman kind of aesthetic is pretty cool. If I was to buy this skin, I'd probably swap out the headgear, but other than that, I think every other aspect, including that awesome animation, is pretty good. So once again, I'm going to put it like maybe up an A tier, maybe low or high end of B tier. The next one then is going to be for Warden, and I was actually surprised when I did a poll a few days ago, seeing how many people really like this elite skin. Now in my opinion, it's a great elite skin. Like, I love the whole like cop on holiday, undercover cop kind of vibe. I do really like it. The headgear is pretty cool, the uniform's great, the animation is also pretty decent overall, but I wouldn't have put it as high as some of you guys did. But I think I'm gonna have to put it in A tier, because if I don't, I think a lot of people are gonna come for me in the comments. The next one then is gonna be for Melusi. I do really like this skin itself. Like, the headgear and uniform I think work perfectly for Melusi. The animation is pretty interesting. I'd say it's not the best, but at least there's a lot going on. Overall, I think it's going to be another one that's just going to slip straight into the B tier, and probably the lower end of the B tier as well. There's just something about this elite skin that just doesn't quite click for me. I think this could easily be like a battle pass or even like an alpha pack cosmetic. Moving on over to the next elite skin then, it's going to be the one for Thunderbird. I really like the headgear uniform for this one. I like the animation as well, where she's kind of caught in a blizzard and she's dodging some of the debris that's coming off of the helicopter. If you guys don't know, when Thunderbird released, she's kind of like a helicopter pilot. That's what her like release thing was. So it kind of ties into her overall and her backstory, which makes a lot of sense. So overall, I think I'm going to put it up in A tier. In my opinion, it's one of the better skins. The next two skins I also think belong in A tier. It's going to be the one for Thorn, where she's like this cool gladiator aesthetic, like Celtic background Irish person with the shield as well. I think the animation's good, the headgear's good, the uniform's good, and to be honest, there's nothing really holding this skin back other than the fact that it's Thorn and her gadget really isn't worth bringing in an actual game of Siege. And then the next one after that is going to be the one for Azami, which in my opinion definitely belongs in high end of A tier. To be honest, I'm going to put it in S tier. The headgear, in my opinion, is pretty cool. The uniform is great, definitely fits the vibe that Azami is giving off. The animation is also great. I love the aesthetic of this one, and overall there's not a single thing that I can say about it that I dislike in any way, shape or form, and I think it's all perfect. The next one we're going to be looking at then is the Ash Tomb Raider skin. I don't see how this is supposed to be Lara Croft or Tomb Raider at all. I really don't see it. I do like the pop of color with the blue on the uniform. I think the headgear could maybe be a little bit better. I know for a fact the weapon skins and stuff you get with this aren't the greatest either. The animation is pretty cool where she kind of rolls in and shoots a bunch of her pistols and then reloads, but other than that I think it does definitely belong in high end of B tier. If you're someone who thinks it deserves a low end of A tier, I could understand that as well though. The next one then is going to be for Thermite. The one thing I love about this elite skin is the animation where he just sprouts fire out of the gunpowder in his hands, and it's absolutely badass. I think it fits Thermite and his aesthetic perfectly, and overall the headgear, uniform, whole aesthetic of the skin is great again, so I think it deserves A tier. The next one then is going to be for Twitch, and once again it's trying to go for that realistic aesthetic of a skin, and I kind of like it, but once again it's kind of one of those skins that I think could potentially be like an alpha pack skin or something like that, and once again no one would really know. I think the one redeeming factor though is definitely the animation when the drone is just driving circles around her and she has to place her foot on it to stop it. I think that's actually a little bit funny, so I think that's what's stopping it from dropping down into C tier in my opinion. I think it deserves B tier. The next one then is going to be another one that's very hit or miss with some people. It's going to be the Montaigne elite skin. Now this is another one of those elites that just doesn't fit the aesthetic of Siege at all. It looks very similar to the Halo kind of suit and kind of armor that's going on, but for the skin itself it does look very cool. It reminds me a lot of like RoboCop or something like that, and then the animation where he gets blasted with this massive laser beam and it just pushes him back in his shield, but then he comes back and keeps pushing through it is pretty cool overall. So once again I think it does deserve A tier when we look at it purely from a cosmetic point of view. And then the next elite skin we're going to be looking at is the Glaz elite. This one is another one of my personal favorites. I think he kind of has like a mafia vibe going on, Russian mafia kind of thing, and then for his animation he flips up a coin and snipes it out of the air and then it falls in front of the camera in slow-mo, which is just absolutely badass overall, to be honest. I think the headgear uniform works very well, animation's great, weapon skins are pretty decent as well, so I think this is another one that maybe even deserves S tier, or at the bare minimum the top end of A tier. And then the final elite skin that is on this tier list ranking is actually an unreleased one. So if you've made it this far, don't tell Ubisoft, because this is actually a leaked elite skin, but this is what is going to be the Fenrir elite skin, and the cosmetics itself for the headgear and uniform look great in my opinion. It looks absolutely amazing. I don't know why Fenrir is getting an elite skin so fast. He's only been out for literally like a year and he's already getting an elite skin, but the best part about this is definitely that animation where he's kind of got the fear toxins going on and he's got like this scarecrow from Batman aesthetic. Overall I think this is going to be an S tier elite skin when it eventually comes out. But with that being said, that has been it for today's video. If you've watched the entire thing, let me know what you think of my tier list. Where do you agree, where do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching. Click the video on screen, I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and until the next one, goodbye.